Um, Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to UBC Engineering Transfer Student Registration Workshop today. This workshop is to help you understand your transfer credits, how your transfer credits can be applied to meet your degree requirements, and to know what courses you need to take at UBC and how to register for them. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that UBC Point Grey campus is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. The Musqueam people have been living and learning on these lands for generations, long before UBC was established, and they continue to do so today. Here we have a few housekeeping notes that I would like to mention before we start. Please keep yourself on mute throughout the presentation. Do not worry about taking notes because this session is being recorded, so we will email you the detailed version of the presentation. We will also have a Q&A session at the end. You can take notes of your questions and then post them like in the Q&A when we ask you to do so. Let's get started. Firstly, let me introduce our presenters for today's session. My name is Rachel Xie. I am the International Programs and Transfer Credit Advisor. I'm sure that all of you have already received a welcome email from me after you accepted the offer. We also have my colleague John Johns, who is Academic Advisor, to present as well.
Thanks so much, Rachel. Hi, everyone. You may have had me at the very beginning here if you joined early, but otherwise, happy to share with you some info today, and hopefully it will be a nice time for all of us.
Thank you, John. Both of us are advisors from the Engineering Academic Services Office. So Engineering Academic Services is a home faculty advising office for UBC engineering students. We are here to guide students through how the engineering program works and how they can prepare for success. We also help students navigate through the enormous number of resources at UBC and find the best service to meet their needs. If you have any questions about UBC engineering, you can always start with EAS. Now let's talk about transfer credits. As a transfer student to UBC, it is very important for you guys to understand your transfer credits and to know how to apply these credits to your BASC degree before registration. To help you better understand your transfer credits, you may want to know where your transfer credits are transferred from. This is a list of all different groups of transfer students that you are coming from, and I will talk more about each of them specifically later. Hmm? Why it doesn't go to the next page? Okay. So if you are a current UBC student and have been awarded transfer credits, you can view your transfer credits on the Workday student. Except the students who hold a degree prior to entering UBC engineering program. For this group of students, your transfer credits will not be posted to the Workday, but you can view your applicable transfer credits on the transfer credit summary that our office share with you. Here is a screenshot of the Workday. Once you log in Workday, you click Academics, then you click Transfer Credit. This is an example of the transfer credits that you may have received. You might have a question of what absent first mean for your transfer credits and how you could apply those transfer credits towards your UBC degree. No worries, we will help you understand these throughout the workshop today. If you want to search for other transfer credits that you haven't been awarded and you think they might cover some of your some courses of your program, you can use BC Transfer Guide online search tool to see if these courses have been evaluated and approved by UBC before or not. On the Workday, there are different types of transfer credits that you may have received. Most of you have received the specific transfer credits. For example, Epson 100 3 credits or Math 101 3 credits, which have the specific course code and the course number. It means that the course content overlaps more than 80% with a specific UBC course. If you are awarded a specific transfer credits, you do not need to take those courses at UBC. Some of you might also receive the general transfer credits. For example, Physics First, 3 credits, or CPSC First, 3 credits, which means that an exact UBC equivalent course does not exist within the same department. If you are awarded general transfer credits, you will need to confirm with us if the credits can cover your program requirements or not. Some of you may also have received the credits with an exemption. For example, Epson First 3 credits, exemption Epson 160, or Chemistry 121 4 credits, exemption Chemistry 154. It means that we would allow you to waive prerequisite or required course even if the original course does not significantly match a UBC course. If you are awarded an exemption, you would not need to take the exempted course at UBC if it is required by your program. Once you understand your transfer credits, you may want to know how to apply your transfer credits to your BASC degree. All transfer students will receive your personalized transfer credit summary before registration. This is an example of transfer credit summary, which tells you how your transfer credits can be applied towards BSc program and whether you need a registration token if you receive that transfer credits. Even though you are transferring from post-secondary institutions, you may have advanced credits from high school. For example, you took IB or AP or A-levels exam. If you want to receive advanced credits and apply them to your degree, please make sure to submit the final official grades to UBC admissions. On our EAS transfer credits webpage, you can find how advanced credits can be applied towards the BSc program requirements. Most of you should have received the first year transfer credits from your previous institutions. This is the most common first year engineering equivalent transfer credits that students might receive. On the left side of the chart, these are the 37 credits required for first year engineering program. All engineering students are required to complete those courses in order to graduate. And on the right side of the chart, these are the equivalent transfer credits that you might have received, and they are able to cover our first year engineering requirements. You can also find this chart on our EAS transfer credits website. As I mentioned before, we have different groups of transfer students. I'd like to briefly explain the scenario for each group so that you could understand what kinds of transfer credits you are eligible to receive and how they can apply towards your UBC BASC degree. Firstly, we have students who transfer from other UBC Vancouver faculties. For those students, I would recommend you to refer to the first year engineering equivalent transfer credits chart to determine how your UBC credits can be applied. If you have successfully completed the UBC Science 1 program, you will receive an exemption for Chemistry 154, Math 100, Math 101, Physics 157, 158, and 159. We also have transfer students from UBC Okanagan Engineer Program and have completed all the required first-year Epson courses at UBCO. then you will be exempt from most of our first year engineering requirements, except humanities elective, as it is not required in your first year requirements. Some of UBCO transfer students might have received the transfer credits from other institutions as well towards their UBCO program. But if you subsequently change the campus to Vancouver, your transfer credits will be reassessed towards the Vancouver program. So it means that you might receive different transfer credits at UBC Vancouver. For UBCO transfer students, besides taking UBCO first year engineering courses, if you have completed additional courses or are transferring from other UBCO faculties, you will need to submit a request for assessment of transfer credits form to us so that we can determine how your credits can apply to the UBC Engineering Vancouver program. In addition to internal UBC transfer, we also have different groups of students who transfer from external institutions. For example, if you have fully completed the first year requirements in an engineering transfer program at one of our partner institutions listed here, you have fulfilled our first year requirements. No more evaluation required for your transfer credits. If you are a transfer student from SEJA pre-university program, you must have at least one full year of study here in order to be eligible to receive transfer credits. And if you have completed the DEC diploma there, you will receive up to 30 credits. But if you have not completed a DEC program, the transfer credits will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. As I mentioned before, for a prior degree holder, if you hold a non-UBC degree prior to entering the university, your transfer credits will not appear on your Workday. If the course is not listed in BC Transfer Guide, you will need to also submit a request for assessment of transfer credits form to determine how courses completed in your prior degree may apply towards your BASC degree requirements. And if you have completed a technology diploma, please note that non-transfer credits can be awarded towards the first year engineering program. And we would suggest those students to apply for the engineering bridge program at Camosun College. Then you will enter directly to third year in one of civil, mechanical, or mining engineering programs at UBC. So these are all the different transfer student groups when you are admitted to UBC. However, no matter which transfer group you are in, if you have received any general transfer credits and you think the course might be applied towards the BSc degree, please feel free to submit a request for assessment transfer credits form to us for further evaluation. And please note that for all 200 level transfer credits, please hold off submitting the request to us until you are placed into one of the engineering specializations. The request, oops. The request for assessment of transfer credits can be submitted through our EAS transfer credits website. Please feel free to scan this QR code and save our transfer credit website to your browser, which contains a lot of helpful transfer credits information and the assessment request form link. Just so you know, this assessment request can take between 6 to 8 weeks to complete, so please submit the form to us at your earliest convenience. Now I will pass it over to my colleague John to talk more about course registration for transfer students.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Okay, so I'd love to talk you through some of these pieces that we want to think about in terms of what courses you will complete at UBC, how you register some of these classes, and it's going to depend quite a bit on whether you're entering into year one admission or whether you're entering directly into an engineering specialization and maybe some of those courses that we have left to complete along the way. So absolutely happy to kind of talk in more general terms here. And then if you do require any extra support through your registration here, would be very happy to speak to you one-to-one at any time between now and your registration, just to make sure you have everything in place. Always very happy to meet with transfer students, whatever your situation is, just to make sure that we're figuring out our registration in the best possible way. But hopefully this is going to introduce us into the kind of basics of what we might need going forward here. So let's start from the beginning. When it comes to registration timeline at UBC, this is the key bits that we need to know. So right now, or in the next month or so, we're going to be registering let me just go back there. We're going to be registering for the winter session, which basically means term 1 and term 2, anything between September and December, and then January and April here at UBC will be registered in this next month or two. So that's what we're kind of focusing on today. There is an optional summer session at UBC as well. We will be looking at that much later down the line. So that's kind of March time is when you'd be doing the registration for those pieces. So the date specifically for those, and you'll get some impression over the coming weeks of when your date might be. But the date specifically for those, if you're entering at a year 1 level, will be June 24th to June 26th. If you are entering into an engineering program, it will depend maybe on what those credits are looking like that you're coming in with from your previous institution as to whether you are technically classified to register with year 3 or year 2. Good news for you, those registration dates are very close to each other. So beginning of July, either July 2nd to 4th or July 8th to 10th for your registration time. So again, if you don't have that information very shortly, it will be with you in plenty of time for ahead of your registration in terms of those exact dates and times that you will personally be registering yourself. So once we do get there, the way to see how your registration appointment is set up would be to go onto your Workday account. Now, if you haven't been on Workday already, this is probably a good time to start accessing it. It's something that you'll use extensively probably throughout your studies, and especially at this point when we're waiting for our transfer credits to arrive and viewing those and viewing what it's met, and then figuring out, okay, how are we registering? When is our registration time? All of these pieces. The answer is probably going to be Workday to at least go to at first instance, try and figure things out, and then come to myself, Rachel, and the rest of our team should there be any issues or anything you want to chat about. So the way to view your registration appointment is on the Academics tab on your Workday account, is then under Registration and Courses, and there will be a registration appointment date and time on a table. It's going to give you 2 appointments because one is going to be for winter term 1 and one is going to be for winter term 2. They're going to be the same appointment time. They are basically, you're registering for all of it at the same time, but it shows it like you have 2 separate appointments because in a sense, you'll be registering term 1, i.e. September to December, and term 2, January to April, a little bit separately, just all at the same time. Okay, we're going to get into that a little bit here. So with our year 1 course planning, what do we need? What does that look like? Gonna depend a little bit on what you're coming in with, honestly, but this is a good impression of what we should need to do if we're coming in at a year 1 level, if we're not going immediately into a program placement and we're intending to still finish our first year engineering classes. This is very much what we would be looking at. So all BASC first year students need to register in at least 24 credits in the winter session. So that is going to be your first year engineering courses. We're going to get onto those a little bit. It's going to be your engineering courses. It's going to be your first year English, your 3 credits of humanities. And then we're going to look at what some of the other things that you can register are. So to get here first, we're going to get to the first year engineering classes. And your engineering courses, they make up 31 credits that we talk about as your core engineering courses. So let me just bring up the chart on the right-hand side here. That gives us a bit more of an impression of what we're talking about here. So basically your core engineering courses is everything in this chart. And they are the classes that you would go into, take as your engineering classes. And then there are what we're calling here kind of self-registered courses. They are your elective classes. They are the ones where the self-registered element is really you having some choice or selection over which of those classes you're taking. So it's going to be your first year English, whether you take Words 150, English 110 or 111. They're the more literature level kind of English classes. Or you then with your humanities, social science elective, there are a huge amount of different options that you can take to meet those requirements. Most courses in the Faculty of Arts would meet those requirements. So essentially, if you are registering for any of those engineering classes, anything on this right-hand side, you would go ahead and register in a waitlist for those classes. So anything that you're missing from this list, you would waitlist, and we will move you from the waitlist as we get closer to the start of term into an available section for those classes. When it comes to the classes that you will be able to register right now, that's going to be the English, the humanities, those classes. When your registration opens, you'll be able to register directly into actual seats for those classes and not just the waitlist section as you'll be doing for those engineering classes that you still have outstanding. Of course, if you're coming in already with that humanities credit, you're coming in with words credit, you're coming in with any of these engineering classes already covered, we'll see that on our transfer credit site, and we'll have an evaluation done by Rachel as well that could show us very clearly what we still need to take, what we still need to meet. But if we are unclear about what that looks like, what is still remaining for us to register in, what that looks like, then always come and chat to us and let us know if we can help and support with that in your own individual case. So because as part of our first year, a lot of you students coming in might have really close to the full first year program completed, but we maybe just missed out on getting to the credit requirement to be going straight into an engineering program. So you might be looking at those courses and saying, you know what, I have almost all of those already completed. What do I possibly take in 25 winter in this coming year in order to be a full-time student, in order to get 24 credits, which is what we ask students to register in as a minimum in this coming year, ahead of your program placement. So again, this is something we will be super happy to talk you through as advisors here. If you want to meet with myself or any of my colleagues, we'd always be really happy to talk to you about some of the ways that we would approach this. But some of the common ways that you can consider is taking extra complementary studies, so taking more credits of humanities, for example. We take 6 credits in total over our degree studies. So even if you've already met 3 of those coming in from elsewhere, potentially we might still have 3 more that we can take at this time. We'd also potentially look at an impact course, a technical communication course, and some of the common degree requirements that might be carrying across different engineering specializations. And the reason for that, I know at the beginning we declared that we had some interest in mechanical, electrical, kind of different engineering areas in this room here today. But some of those programs can be quite different in terms of the courses that are offered at second year level and above. And what you don't want to do is in this first year, take a ton of electrical engineering classes, and then it turns out in your first year, you know what, I actually want to go into mechanical, or maybe you end up being placed in a different engineering specialization, and all of those courses you took no longer count towards whatever specialization you end up in. So we want to plan with you and make sure that A, these are courses that you can realistically register for this year, and B, that they are kind of meeting these safer requirements that we can feel good about, that are, you know, relatively likely to be able to apply to your degree studies, regardless of which specialization we end up in. So these are all going to be courses you'll be registering on yourself. We do have a page that is kind of set up for students in a slightly different situation, but that can help you with some of the course planning here. So when we send on the slides to you and some of the information on this session afterwards, there'll be links to that too. And again, that's something that if you have any concerns about or want to know more about, we'd be very happy to meet with you one-on-one, because we do understand, obviously, when it comes to students coming in with transfer credit, your situation is likely to be very different from some of the other students around you, depending on what credit you're coming in with, in what situation you're in, where your ambitions are, all of those kind of different pieces. So if you want to talk about any of those things, we're always here and happy to do so. So for the students that are entering in those year 2 or above, so you're entering essentially directly into a program placement. Hopefully you've put in your program placement form already, if not have been given a deadline to do so, and are kind of getting all of those pieces together and figuring out what specialization we're going into, and hoping to get that response kind of fairly soon, ahead of your registration on what program you're going into. Now, what would you need to do? Now, of course, in some cases, even if you were able to get directly into program placement because of your engineering credits, it may be that we were still missing a couple of those engineering first year classes. So we would want to be sure again, that we're kind of covering those classes, that everything is kind of all sorted, we would be registering again into the waitlist, into these engineering classes, the ones that are showing up on the right-hand side here. And again, if we're missing English, if we're missing humanities, in the same case as those students that we've just spoken about, the first year students, we would be registering maybe directly onto those classes because they are electives, they are classes that you would be able to go ahead and navigate around and select your own elective, select your own English section, select your own whether you're doing words or and then the sort of humanities you were interested in doing as well. The second year courses is going to really depend on your program placement results. So that will be released ahead of second year registration, usually a couple of weeks beforehand. So you will know at that point, okay, I am going forward into mechanical, I'm going forward into environmental, I'm going forward into civil, whatever that looks like, and then have a contact in your program that will reach out to you, or you can reach out to them as well if you're getting a little anxious about it, and make sure that you have everything you need in terms of what you would do to go about registering for those classes. Because the way departments might do that, the start times of those classes, the weight of those classes, what your second year looks like, and how it fits in with maybe some of those first year requirements you might have left is going to depend a little bit on where we're going. So when we get to that point and we're a couple of weeks out from our registration, you can go ahead on our Engineering Academic Services website, go to your engineering program contact section, and each of those programs is going to have a contact form or an email address there for you to be able to reach out to biomedical or civil or any of those programs that you might get put in and say, hey, I just got placed in chemical engineering. I would love to know what I register for my second year, what's going on. Very likely they might reach out to you directly. But again, if you want to reach out and get ahead of the curve, once you're in that program, you're very welcome to do so. Especially again, maybe we're in a situation where we have to take a few less of those second year courses this year because we still have some first year courses to complete. Whatever that looks like for you, you're very welcome to kind of work around it and make sure you have everything you need. So key parts here are how do we actually go about registering in the system once we get through all of these pieces. So we have our registration time open, or maybe we're just trying to prepare for that registration time. How is this going to work? And we're going to start with that preparation piece, the saved schedules. So saved schedules is something you can start to do anytime from now. It gets a little bit complicated when we start thinking about, okay, what second year program am I going to be in? What's that going to look like? So for you students expecting to go straight into a placement, into a program, we maybe can start putting on some of those first year requirements on our saved schedule, but they might look a little bit barer than they would for you incoming kind of first year transfer students who can probably start to truly build out what things might look like for us in the saved schedule. So your saved schedule is something that you can do now on Workday, anytime ahead of your registration, and it allows you to plan a potential timetable for your registration. So you can figure out, okay, I need to take Physics 170. I also want to take this specific humanities, social science. This section of Physics 170 clashes with this humanities, social science. So I'm going to register or try and get into this other section or this other humanities and make all of these pieces work from a logistical standpoint, and try and make sure that you have a conflict-free schedule that works for you, that has the classes that you need. And then once we are there, once our registration opens, it's going to allow you to just go ahead and register your courses in one click. So if you have your saved schedule set up, it means when your registration opens, you're not scrambling around and trying to figure out what courses you need and how to register them and what's going on. So this is a nice piece of preparation that you can do. So we're going to head back onto Workday for this part. And again, I will add that there's extra things coming to you after the session, so you don't need to take all of the notes down right now. It will be, it's being recorded as well if you want to view this back at a later stage. But finding courses for your saved schedule is under your Workday, under your academics tab on your top apps. And then you want to click on registration and courses. And the registration menu is on the very right on your Find Your Courses link. And you must start there to build a saved schedule. So that's exactly where you would start, where you would go. And again, this next bit just has a link again for Workday here, should you require it. myworkday.ubc.ca is where you would go. Okay. So in order to find courses, once we get there, we would go on to find course sections. We would set the start date within the 25-26 winter term, and we're going to operate these separately. So we're going to do a saved schedule for term 1, and we're going to do a saved schedule separately for term 2. Okay? So usually that term 1 schedule and the term 2 schedule, we're going to consider all of the things that we can take in those times, make sure we try and balance things, kind of get things right, and figure out, okay, what am I going to register in term 1? What am I going to register in term 2? But again, when it comes down to it, we're hopefully clicking a button on term 1 and clicking a button on term 2, registering them all at the same time and making that work for us. So you would select your academic term. Again, it's the start date within field there. You would select future periods, and then it's going to be 25-26 winter term 1, UBCV, of course, and then 25-26 winter term 2, UBCV, and you would select your academic level, which of course is undergraduate. So that's going to take you back then, bring you all of the undergraduate courses that are going to be available for you in that term that you can then navigate between, find the courses you would need, again, whether that's an engineering first year course, whether that's a humanities social science course, whether it's some of your second year courses and you just want to check them out and figure out what's coming ahead, absolutely welcome to do so. So it's going to pop up a little bit like this. You're going to have filters, search function, where you can kind of search for specific kind of course types or start to filter down any of those interests for you, anything that you're looking at, any specific times, dates, all of those kind of different pieces, whether you're looking for in-person classes, online classes. You can narrow down your results by a load of different criteria here and try and figure out what's going to work best for you. And then, kind of filter through things and make sure that that all works out. So when you find a course throughout all of that information, you figure it out and you say, this is on Monday, Tuesday, it's a really good time of day, this is ideal for me, this is going to fit perfectly what I want, then you would go ahead, you'll click the course title, it will open it in a pop-up window. You can take a look at the course description, the registration requirements, make sure that you meet any prerequisites that are there, make sure that you're interested in the course description, or that it's mandatory for you to take it, one or the other, I guess. And then you would go ahead and hit add to saved schedule. And that's going to add that course section, that specific time course section into your saved schedule. So that saved schedule is all ready to go. So you should be able to see when you're adding something into your course saved schedule, whether it is going to be open for you, whether you're going to be waitlisting. Again, any first year courses, you're going to go ahead and register via a waitlist. So engineering first year classes, you'll be registering a waitlist for those ones, regardless of whether you're coming in at a first year level or a second year level. If you're missing any of those, you're going to be going ahead and registering a waitlist for those in a vast majority of cases. And it's going to be maybe those open classes are going to be your humanities, your English, maybe some of those impact requirements, some of those different complementary studies we talked about for the people kind of looking to take some of those courses ahead of time who haven't yet gone through the placement side. So you from here to make that saved schedule, you're going to click the checkbox to add a course or activity from there. There's potentially going to be different sections within that course. So often you might have a lab and a discussion, you might have a lecture and a discussion, you might have different things going on when you go to add a course section. So you want to find and select your specific sections within it that you are most interested in kind of taking and moving forward, and make sure you're ticking everything you need. So if there is a lecture and a discussion, you're going to need to add both the lecture and the discussion to your saved schedule, or it's just not going to work out when you go to register that class. So you want to make sure that everything that is on that list of the course sections, that you're adding it in there into your saved schedule. It's going to pop up like this and give you those check boxes to be able to check through, okay, I want this course lecture, this discussion, this lab, whatever it looks like. You're going to make sure that you have all of the sections, all of the requirements you need. And then once you're done adding that specific course, you're going to click the done button or the OK button, the orange button at the bottom there. And that's going to allow you to then move forward and start adding other courses into the same saved schedule. So you're going to then build up a saved schedule for term 1 that's going to have multiple courses on it, all the courses that you're going to need in term 1. You're going to have another one for term 2 that's going to have the courses, the sections, all those things that you need for term 2. And that's going to make things nice and easy when it comes to your registration. So in terms of some tips I would have for building for a saved schedule, I would recommend having a few different saved schedule options just for when a class fills up. So you might find that when you go to register, you've kind of in your term one schedule, for example, you've selected a really popular humanities social science course, and you're thinking, yeah, I would love to get into that. But then you go to your registration time, things are all set up, you've got that one saved schedule, you go and click to register into it, and there's an error because it says that humanities social science course you were hoping to get into is full. So what we want to do at that point is not necessarily have to go back to the drawing board, back to square one, try and figure out, okay, what other humanities, social science fit with my timetable? What else can I do here? How is this going to work out for me? You ideally would love to have another safe schedule to just be able to pivot over to something else that's already set up that works, that is just something that makes it really simple for you to pivot on your registration time, not be stressed out at that time, and make something work. If alerts are popping up when you go to register that saved schedule, or when you go to add anything to that saved schedule, you just want to make sure, okay, is there a prerequisite? Is there a co-requisite issue? What's this error going on? Like, did I forget to, when it was asking me to add the lecture and the discussion, did I forget to tick the discussion group? Like, just becoming a bit of a detective, trying to figure out, okay, what's going on here? What's happening? Why is it not letting me add this course I wanted into my saved schedule? How do I kind of overcome this? There are 10-minute breaks between classes is the other thing I would say. So when you're looking at that saved schedule, you might see, okay, I have a class that ends at 11 and my next class starts at 11. You know, how does that even work? So your first class will end about 10 minutes early to allow you to get to the next class. But for those of you who have been on UBC campus, you will know it's pretty big. So you do want to consider a little bit the location of some of those classes. You know, if you're registering a humanities social science straight after like Phys 170, and it turns out that humanities is on one side of the campus, physics is on the other side of the campus, and you're going to have to run between classes or get an e-scooter or do something wild to get to your class, just think about making sure that you have that plan in place. Not to say you can't do it, but, you know, absolutely worth thinking about as part of your planning here. If you don't want to be stressing out and running between places, just make sure that you're taking that into account. And the other thing I would say is the add drop deadline is always there for you as well. So if you're not quite sure right now, you can, for example, if you haven't got those credits ready, whatever's going on for you, you want to just have the UBC class there. You're maybe not sure of what humanities, social science fits well for you, or whatever that looks like. Maybe your circumstances change for whatever reason. You do have until the add drop deadline of each term to make any decisions on your classes. So that's September 15th for term one. It's January 16th for term two. So it's about 2 weeks or so into classes. You can drop from a class without having anything on your record, without withdrawal standing, without anything there. So we do not recommend dropping classes from your timetable until your transfer credits have been posted and they're there on your Workday record, and you can be sure, okay, I have these credits. I know that I can drop the UBC class. I don't have to worry about it before you go and take that action. So if you are concerned about anything at all, always come see us, always chat to us before you go ahead and drop anything or move anything around. But absolutely, those add drop deadlines are there as well. So if anything does change ahead of the start of classes or even into the first couple of weeks of classes, there is a bit of a buffer for you to kind of have that time to still make changes. So once we've put all of those preparations in place, we've kind of done everything we can, how do we then register from that saved schedule? So we navigate to our saved schedule again, and once our registration time is opened, we can go ahead and then click the orange start registration button on any of our saved schedules that we have. And we're going to be brought to a new page. It's going to say start registration saved schedule. We're going to see all of the classes in that saved schedule. And once we're ready to go, we can go ahead and click the register button at the bottom left corner of the page. And if that was all good, if everything has all worked out well, then we're going to get a really nice response here that's going to give us our successful registrations. You're going to see everything come up in there, and you won. It's a great day. Everything is as you wanted it. We're in perfect territory. Now, there are a couple of other potential outcomes here, which are that it might be unsuccessful or you might be waitlisted. So again, for those engineering first year classes, we're going to expect to see those in the waitlisted registration. That is totally normal. That is nothing to worry about. We might find that some of those classes, say, a very popular humanities, social science, for example, we might find in the waitlisted section instead of successful registrations. And then we have to know, okay, we don't have a guaranteed seat in that class. We have to maybe think about what's going to be in our best interest here moving forward. We might also see something in unsuccessful registrations. And it's likely then to give us a reason why. So if we didn't meet the eligibility requirements, we didn't meet the prerequisites, the class is full, like whatever that's going to say there, it's going to give us a bit of an indication as to why that registration didn't work out. Again, if you're concerned about this, if the reason doesn't quite make sense to you, if there's anything that you're worried about here or anything that's not working out for you, come and see us, come and have a chat. We're very happy to help figure this out with you and make sure that this all works out for you in the best possible way. Now, if you do find that there's a no or a wait list that you weren't expecting, whatever that is, and you're then, maybe you haven't set up other save schedules or they're not working to you for whatever reason, do you have to set up a brand new save schedule at that time once your registration opens? The answer is no. You can go ahead and instead, at that time, once your registration is open, you can, without creating a saved schedule, just go and find a course as if you were about to add it to your saved schedule, and instead you'll have a register button there instead of next to your add saved schedule, where you can just bypass it and register directly into that class. So again, you're probably going to get the same thing. Like if you go to register in that, hopefully it's successful. If it's not, for whatever reason, you'll figure it out, but it skips that step then of having a whole saved schedule element. Once your registration's open, you'll be ready to go. And if it doesn't appear, for whatever reason, first of all, check your registration appointment time, make sure that it's open, make sure your registration's ready, and there is a troubleshoot button if not. So it's going to give you a bit of an understanding of, okay, what's going on here, what's wrong. But if you still can't figure it out, totally okay, totally normal. Not expected that you know exactly how Workday works at this point or what some of the many issues that you might be coming up with are. So you're very welcome to get in touch with us. We can help you. We can be the experts on some of those pieces and make sure you have a smooth ride through all of this. So any concerns, anything that pops up, let us know. I do have one serious message just before we get towards the end here, which is just to say that you are responsible for completing all degree requirements at all levels for which you have not received transfer credit. So make sure you check what transfer credit has come through, what's been received. When you get that report through from Rachel, understanding, okay, this credit I have meets this requirement, and understanding that it is your responsibility to make sure those requirements that have not already been met by your transfer credit are met during your time at UBC. So again, if you have any concerns about that, you're responsible, but we are here to help. So you're very welcome to come and speak to us, to ask us, to check things, to make sure that you have everything that you need. But make sure that you're taking that ownership, taking that accountability of it, and that you have everything that you need as you move forward here. So if you have questions at any time after this about transfer credit, you can go ahead and book an appointment with our transfer credit advisor, Rachel, here via PD Portal. So if you log into PD Portal, again, some links and stuff will come to you after the session here. You log into that, you can book a session with Rachel. You can make sure that you're going through everything you would need from the transfer credit point of view. If you have any questions about what we've gone through in registration here today, first of all, we're going to have a Q&A in a minute, so you're welcome to ask questions in that little time. If you have follow-up questions and maybe it's more specific to your individual case, again, often these are with transfer credit students. What you want to do, we have a registration FAQ on our website that has some of those common questions that might come up, but you can absolutely reach out to us as well. Very welcome to contact us via email, book an advising appointment with one of our advisors as well. Come and see us in person if you happen to be in the area. The fastest option often is that we run virtual drop-in quick question advising multiple times a week. You can find all of the times, the dates, all of those kind of different things on our website. So you can jump onto Zoom and speak with an advisor pretty quickly and go through any concerns you might have, and we'd be very happy to help and support you in any way that feels good. So anytime between now registration, certainly when your registration's open, you have any questions, have any issues, we are here to help and support. And with that in mind, we would love to invite you to ask any questions you might have here. And Rachel and I will be monitoring here the Q&A section and making sure that anything that you want to ask, you are very welcome to do so. You're also very welcome to upvote other people's questions if you think they would be particularly great to be answered live with us here. But yeah, please feel free to type out your questions in the question and answer section. Again, if it's something that's more specific to you individually, we would love to talk to you one-on-one at any point after the session as well. But if you have something more general that you want to ask us here, very happy to hear it for the next 13 minutes or so here. Yeah. Okay, registration tokens. And that's a very fair question. We've already got a couple in there straight away. So I will go ahead and answer those certainly here. Registration tokens are essentially, if you have been given transfer credit for some of your classes, but they are not directly the same as the engineering first year classes in particular. And, to give an example, we have an engineering first year physics class called Phys 158. And often transfer credit for that class might be given as Phys 118, which is the science equivalent class at UBC, and more commonly the kind of the equivalent credit that's given from other institutions. Now, in some cases, if you are given that Phys 118 credit, and then you go to register on a class that requires you to have specifically Phys 158, it might be that you would require a registration token to be able to register in that class. In that case, if you're a first year student, you would come and speak to ourselves, and we would be able to then issue your registration token. If we haven't done so already, we try and proactively get ahead of these and make sure that if we can see that you might need one, that everything's all in place. But if you do have any issues with your registration tokens, if you have any issues with your registration, it's basically telling you that you haven't met the prerequisite for that class. Again, if I give the example of Phys 158, you have a Phys 118 credit, you have been given that as equivalent credit at UBC, you go to register in a class, it says that you need Phys 158 specifically, you're going to need a token to be able to override that registration on Workday. So all you need to do is if you're not able to directly register in that class, if you are experiencing any issues, i.e. maybe we haven't issued that token ahead of time for you, you can just contact ourselves or your engineering department, your specialization that you're placed in, and they can help you out and make sure that you're able to register in any classes that you've been given the credit for, but maybe not the exact direct credit is asking for. Hopefully that clarifies things a little bit for you, but absolutely happy to speak a bit more on registration tokens. Again, if that concerns you in any way, absolutely something we can talk about in more detail one-to-one.
I think I can answer the next question. When transferring credits from UBCO, what happens to the grade you got in that class? As long as you pass a course, and then if that course can be applied towards UBC Vancouver BSc program, then we can use that. Same as transfer credits. If you pass a course in your previous institutions, and then after evaluation, the courses can be applied to our program, we can still use that.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, I'm just going to answer this one from Nicholas just about email lists. I just want to make sure, Nicholas, that one of the key things I would recommend is going onto your Workday and making sure that your contact details on Workday are correct. And if not, you can contact your enrollment services advisor that you may have been given already to make sure that everything is all in place for you, that all of your correspondence is going to the right place and the right email. Because that can be really important to make sure that your contact details are all in there correctly, so that everything that UBC are sending is going to the right place. Because often if it's set up with a specific student email or various different things, things can get a little bit lost in the mix there. So I would recommend first checking on Workday to make sure that's all in place. And if you have any issues from there, your enrollment services advisor would be a good place to go. I will send a link to enrollment services here in the chat as well. So if there is anything that they can help follow up on and you're not sure who your enrollment service advisor is, that is just in the chat just there. I know I told us not to use the chat for the session. You won't be able to type in anything there yourselves, but you should be able to view that link there, should that be helpful.
There's a question about like after getting our program placement result, can start with saved schedule. I think we can, right, John?
Yeah, absolutely. So safe schedules, certainly if you're going into year two and you don't have any first year courses left to take, the main thing for you is going to be when your program placement comes out, are you going to need to register those classes, like what's going on with those? If you do have some of those first year classes left to meet, like you're still waiting to register FIS 170 and FIS 158 or whatever that is, then absolutely you might start your safe schedule before that to just make sure that you have those classes in, you know where they are, like you're kind of preparing for that. And maybe you're looking at, maybe you're really hoping to get into mechanical engineering and you're looking at what those courses look like and even adding those to your safe schedule just to see if it works out. You're welcome to do that. When it comes to your actual registration for second year, it's going to depend very much on what program you're in as to how they will approach that. Like some programs may register the courses for you. They may tell you what to register and ask you to do so. Like it really depends on what program you go into. So they will be in contact after your placement result in terms of what you need to do from there. But absolutely, if you have first year requirements and those kind of things still remaining to meet, it might make sense to kind of jump on and start putting together a bit of a safe schedule. Again, there's no harm in playing around with safe schedules. If you have the time right now and you just want to see how registration will work or what you can add in there or what your second year timetable might look like, you can start piecing those things together at any time. And absolutely makes sense if you want to start getting ahead of things. Okay, and I'll take the next question as well. So when transferring from a different post-secondary to second year, if you don't have credit for a class as a requirement for second year, for example, FIS 158 with NEC 2, would you be able to take equivalent courses in September and take MEC classes in January? So this is a wonderful question. So mechanical engineering is actually a little bit different from some of the other specializations when it comes to second year. So MEC 2's second year program is quite rigid and requires all requirements to be met for that program ahead of August 1st of the year of entry. So essentially what that means in that case is that you would not be able to take any of those missing prerequisites, any of those missing equivalent classes, and start MEC 2 at any point in that year. So you could still be placed in mechanical engineering if that is your program preference and you are successful in getting into it. You would have to work with MEC Student Services on what you would do in that year in between, because you would not be able to start any of the MEC 2 program until the following September. So you do not get to start MEC classes in January. MEC 2 is a rigid one-year program, but they can work with you on figuring out what that might look like. Maybe that's taking some of those remaining first-year classes, some of those common requirements, maybe entering the co-op program, like whatever's going to work best for you. You can work with MEC Student Services if you are still going for MEC, but it does typically mean if you're not meeting those prerequisites by August 1st, for MEC specifically, you're looking at kind of delaying your progression and start of NEC 2, the year 2 program, for a year. In other specializations, it won't likely have an effect that big on scale. Most likely what would happen if you're missing like one class that's a requirement is it's going to delay your registration into the other classes that's a prerequisite for. But for MEC 2 specifically, the entire second year of MEC is basically the prerequisites are prerequisites for all of it. So there is kind of not as much flexibility there with taking things a little bit later and still being able to meet some of the requirements of second year on time. So great question. Unfortunately, with MEC, it is a little bit different from some of the others. Okay, and there's another question straight away about MEC. I'll just carry on at that while we're on topic. So if you're transferring second year MEC, you will be delayed a year to graduate. Yeah, essentially that is the case. So there will be a small pool that you would work with MEC Student Services on of courses that you could start to take to get ahead. Thinking about some of your complementary studies, impact requirement, Maybe, again, you've still got remaining first year requirements to meet or extra humanities or anything like that, and potentially looking at what you could do in one of those terms with a placement, an internship, something like that would be viable potentially. But yes, you would not be starting NEC 2, the year 2 NEC program, until the following September if you are missing some of those prerequisites. So if you're missing any of the prerequisites for MEC, then you would need to kind of delay things by a year to start a second year program. So very likely then, as a result, delaying your graduation. So in terms of whether it would be easier to take a different program, of course, that is very dependent on yourself, on your own circumstances and your ambitions. I do work with students who really, really want MEC, and that is not a huge factor for them in terms of, you know what, I want to graduate as a mechanical engineer. I'm happy to wait a year to do so. I work with other students who maybe the time to get to UBC at this stage has already been a little bit of a journey, and they would just like to get ahead and start working towards their graduation. And maybe in those cases, you can look at other alternatives that are going to get you to the same point of where you want to be. But absolutely an individual situation, again, something we'd be very happy to talk about one-to-one. Okay, a couple more questions here, and we'll probably not be able to get to too many more now in the next few minutes here, but they are quite advising-based questions, so I'm happy to take these, Rachel. So when creating our saved schedules, will we see the other mandatory classes from our placement in our schedules? That's a really great question. Not likely. The saved schedules are not going to be where you're going to see the rest of your classes. If you are creating your saved schedule and you're going into a department that register your classes for you, then I would recommend having two screens open. So essentially, whether that's on one device and two windows, or you have two devices open, one that's on your Workday record on your current classes screen. So that is where, if your programmer have registered your courses for you, you would then see all of the classes you'd be registered in and the times and everything of those classes. And then you could create a saved schedule on the side for when your registration opens of those remaining first year requirements or anything that you're looking to meet as well alongside that. But you won't see the placement classes in the same place on the saved schedule unless you decide to add them all in there in order to see that view. Saved schedule, another question that's just popped up is it's one for each term. So there's a saved schedule for term 1, a saved schedule for term 2, because you will only be able to add classes from one term on each. And then we'll do the last question here, which is, does program placement assess transfer credits alongside personal statement for our #1 choice program? Really good question. As long as you are eligible for placement, so you have those 27 credits minimum, and you are kind of expecting to come in at a year 2 level, you've put in your program placement form, all of those kind of different pieces. The amount of transfer credits you have is not necessarily going to be considered in terms of how your program and making that assessment. It's going to be much more so, your performance on those classes, i.e. your average coming in from your previous study alongside your personal statement. There are some cases, and I would specifically mention engineering physics, that dive into your record a little bit more. They interview students, they do various different things to gauge their suitability for the program. So if any of you were moving forward with that, there is the possibility that they may look at things in more detail and therefore assess what you've taken before in specific performances and specific courses. But for the most part, your transfer credits and what you have in terms of your program is going to be much more around what you have remaining to do, whether you're going to be meeting prerequisites, especially for MEC, as I spoke about earlier, but potentially if there are programs you're going into, if you want to do chemical engineering and you're currently missing chemistry credit, you're probably going to miss a number of second year classes until you've met that chemistry credit, as an example. So it's much more around course registration than it is around the assessment side when it comes to transfer credits, if that makes sense. Okay. Well, thank you. What is the discussion class? One last very quick question there.
Last question.
Just before we end. Discussions, there is numerous different ways that they can be kind of classified. Basically, when it comes to a course, you may have a lecture, most commonly section, which is going to be, if you imagine a big lecture hall, and you're kind of every student in the entire course is sat in a lecture hall listening to a lecture. You may then have a smaller discussion group. which allows you to kind of reflect a little bit more. You may have a lab section, so you're in a laboratory with a smaller group of students. You may have other things going on. It's essentially other parts of that course. So most commonly you'll see a lecture, but you might also see a discussion section that would be potentially, in that kind of format. Again, it very much depends on the format of the class, whether it's an online class in person, whether it's lab-based, whether it's all kinds of different things. You'll see slightly different designations on what those sections look like. Hopefully that kind of very briefly answers you, because we're just about out of time here. But I do want to thank you all for your questions. Again, if there was anything we didn't get around to here that's burning for you or perhaps more personal for you, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd be very happy to speak to you individually about all of these things and make sure you have all the information you need to have success here. Okay. Well,
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining, and thank you, Rachel, for being a wonderful co-presenter, and thank you all. Like I say, if there's anything that we can help with as we move forward here, ahead of registration or well beyond, please feel free to get in touch. We'd be very happy to help and support you. Thanks again for coming today.